Hello and welcome to Eye on Africa here on France 24. I'm Jean-Emile Jamin. Coming up on the show, guards assigned to Niger's president Mohamed Bazoum appear to hold him hostage inside his own palace. We unpack the latest news from a dramatic day in Niamey as global leaders fear another coup is underway. And exactly 1 year before the Paris Olympics kick-off, athletes from all over Africa are kick-starting their preparations. We head to Tunisia, where dreams of gold are firmly on the horizon. Thanks for joining us here on Eye on Africa. Well, presidential guards in Niger say they are holding President Mohamed Bazoum inside his palace in the capital, Niamey. A move the African Union has blasted, calling it an attempted coup. Access has been blocked off to Bazoum's official home and offices in the presidential complex in Niamey, while warning shots have meanwhile been fired at demonstrators by the presidential guards. The National Army says they are ready to attack those guards if they don't back down. France 24's Oliver Farry tells us what we know so far.
Protesters in the Nigerian capital Niamey retreat as troops from the Presidential Guard fire shots warning them away from the presidential compound. Crowds had gathered in the city centre denouncing what many believe to be an attempted coup. Members of the Presidential Guard have been holding President Mohamed Bazoum and his family captive since Wednesday morning. Niger's army said it would intervene if those detaining the president did not back down.
The president and his family are doing well. The army and the National Guard stand ready to attack if those involved don't change their minds.
Although the motive for the move remains unclear, the African Union and the West African bloc ECOWAS expressed concern that a coup d'etat could be underway.
It is with amazement and dismay that ECOWAS has learned of the attempted coup in Niger. It condemns in the strongest possible terms this attempt to seize power by force and calls on the perpetrators to immediately and unconditionally release the democratically elected president of the republic.
The West African state is one of the most unstable nations in the world, experiencing 4 coups since independence from France in 1960. The last of those coups occurred in February 2010, overthrowing then President Mamadou Tanja. The European Union also condemned the action, as did Washington, which counts Niger as a key ally in the region.
We are gravely concerned about the developments in Niger. We strongly support the democratically elected President Bazoum, and we condemn in the strongest terms any efforts to seize power by force and disrupt the constitutional order.
There are concerns another military takeover in Niger could further complicate Western efforts to help countries in the Sahel combat a jihadist insurgency that has spread from Mali over the past decade.
Well, to help bring us up to speed with the situation, I was earlier joined by Aoife Makola, doctoral researcher on foreign militarization in Niger at the London School of Economics. Take a listen.
Yes, indeed. It has been a dramatic day in Niamey. There's a lot of confusion about what's happening. There's loads of rumours circulating about the president standing down, but these haven't been confirmed. There are some supporters out in Niamey, but actually not many. There's reported about 200, but this is really not too many supporters. Bazoum's centre of power is not in Niamey, so this is not an indication of his support nationwide. So really everything is open to question actually at the moment. It should be said that it's only the Presidential Guard who are holding him hostage. The National Army and the Garde Nationale have not supported the Presidential Guard, and it's only one part of the Presidential Guard who are holding him hostage.
Can we ascertain basically where this consternation, where this unhappiness is derived from for this Presidential Guard now turning on their own man who they are supposed to protect?
Exactly. So it's said that the head of the Presidential Guard, General Omar Chiani, was due to be removed from his post, and that's why he has organised this what's being called a coup, but there is a question whether this is a mutiny by a small part of the security forces, or whether we can call this a coup. The fact that he has organized this hasn't been confirmed, so there's still ongoing analysis. There's a lot that needs to be confirmed in the story.
So a lot of basically messages which we don't really actually know at this stage. However, what we do know is that the events have propelled ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States, to already send a delegation to mediate whatever conflict there is, whatever we can say. So can we say that it is important enough that they should do so?
For sure. And if for example, this turns out to be a coup, it represents a huge jolt in events in West Africa, because the US will have to cease its security assistance for Niger, a major ally in its fight against terrorism in West Africa. And if the US pulls out, then the EU often follow US sanctions on these matters. So that would represent then a pullout of all Western security assistance. So this really is quite a critical point. And that's why ECOWAS are sending a delegation.
Well, let's just talk about that point that you make there, the fact that Niger is one of the last bastions of Western support in the Sahel region. How important is it for the likes of the EU and America that the president does remain in his office and that fight against jihadism can still be maintained from Niger?
So Bazoum has been a very pro-Western ally. He has been very open to accepting foreign troops operating in Niger, building bases, collaborating with Western troops. He's been very careful to ensure that it's the Nigerian army that lead on those security initiatives, and it's Western troops that follow, so French troops that follow the Nigerian army's lead, and then other Western countries who are present in Niger are providing training and security advice. So it's still very much the Nigerian military who are leading on the security offensive against terrorist groups operating in this region. But as you say, they are one of the last countries in the region. Mali has expelled French troops. MINUSMA is currently leaving the country. In Burkina Faso, we have a similar situation. So Niger it does represent the last ally of the West in fighting terrorist groups.
And we do have word that the UN chief, Antonio Guterres, has spoken with Niger's president in his compound. At least we will bring you up to date with all those developments coming soon. Laying down flowers and candles, Kenyan party leaders paid tribute to victims of protests against high living costs and a finance bill on Wednesday. Clashes between police and protesters have caused multiple deaths and injuries, with the opposition accusing President William Ruto of failing to fulfill promises to help the poor. This attitude was reflected by opposition leader Kalonzo Musyoka, who attended Wednesday's vigil, saying those killed were protesting against tax hikes proposed by Parliament. A group of African leaders is set to begin talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Thursday, 10 days after the Kremlin pulled out of the crucial Black Sea grain deal in Ukraine. Commitments to continue grain shipments to Africa will be top of the agenda, with Putin already seeking to allay fears of food insecurity, saying to expect record Russian harvests this year. The gathering will take place in St. Petersburg with 17 African heads of state in attendance, largely down from the 45 who attended a similar summit in 2019. Russia blaming the West for that low turnout. Well, Wednesday marks exactly 1 year until the Paris 2024 Olympics begin. For Tunisians hoping to go, they first have to compete in other qualifying events. Now there's extra motivation to look back on, even for those without adequate resources. In the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, Suma Ahmed Ayoub Hafnawi stunned audiences with his gold medal in the 400-meter freestyle, while in Taekwondo, Mohamed Khalil Jendoubi won silver. Lilia Blaise and Hamdi Tlili report.
In the heart of downtown Tunis, despite scorching temperatures, Ghofran Belkhir competes in local weightlifting events. She holds numerous medals from international competitions and dreams of competing at the Olympics.
At the last games in Tokyo, I was really frustrated I couldn't compete because I had an injury, so I was out for 2 years. But now I'm back on my feet, and my main goal is to qualify for Paris. That's all I can think about and prepare for.
She trains with 2 male athletes. Kerem Ben Hanina is one of the most successful athletes in Africa in his category, but he says a lack of resources make it hard to reach the Olympic level.
At international competitions, we see athletes next to us who clearly have much more financial support. But we have what we call grinta, grit and spirit to win, so you have to use your mental strength and make up the difference.
Sports get the short end of the stick in the state's annual budget, which is already squeezed by the economic crisis. And individual sports get less funding than team sports. One sport that isn't well known but where Tunisian athletes are likely to qualify is in women's wrestling. In a hotel in Nabil, 70 kilometers from Tunis, Siwar Boussetta and Khadija Zlassi train with their partners. Neither had any trouble joining the male-dominated world.
I don't find any prejudices around the fact that a woman does wrestling. On the contrary, it creates more curiosity, and people who don't know the sport are happy to see women competing.
The biggest challenge for these athletes is getting visas to attend international competitions.
In recent years, it's been harder to get a visa. There was a competition in Spain which we couldn't go to. This stops us from competing with athletes outside of Africa.
Despite these challenges, they still dream of the Olympics. They're inspired by people like wrestler Marwa El Amri, who in 2016 brought home the bronze from the Games in Rio.
Well, that's all the news from Africa today, but there will be certainly more delightful news coming up regarding those athletes in the days to come. Thanks for joining us. We will see you soon.